Very good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine Tuesday edition. And if I'd like to add, today is the very last for the month of April 2024. How does it feel to be counted among the living this very beautiful morning? Well, the feeling is nostalgic, and I know that you are as excited as we are to welcome the new month of May, which of course will be a month of blessings, a month of celebrations. If you look at a problem state, as of yesterday, the government of Pastor Umoino has already released a lineup of activities for the celebration of the Workers' Day, the celebration of the first year anniversary of the governor of the state, Pastor Umoino. We'll be looking into these and a lot more on Rise and Shine today. But right about now, we'll take a short time out and take a message from our sponsors. When we return, it will be the full house.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Yes, I'm looking for where to get quality home furniture and electronics.
Verily, I say unto you, you don't need to go to Dubai. You don't need to go to Lagos. You don't need to go to Abuja. The solution to your problem is in Uyo Akwa Ibom State, in the blessed Ife Rico, and they sell all kinds of appliances. The only appliances that Ife Rico don't sell is Shrine appliances.
The brand to bank on is Blessed Ifedigo Multi Ventures, the deal on all homes and office furnitures and appliances. With Blessed Ifedigo, you need not travel abroad in search of premium quality products like electronics, electrical appliances, light and lighting fittings, armored cables, armored doors and regular doors, all building and construction materials, generators and solar energy. They also have musical equipment, industrial equipment and lots more. Blessed Ifedigo Multi Ventures is located at number 203 Oran Road, Uyo by Ring Road 3. You can also reach them on their customer care hotline on 0811 592 3580. You can reach them via WhatsApp on 0813 227 17092. For your best quality and affordable home and office furnitures, choose Blessed Ifedigo. Blessed Ifedigo, the hype is real.
In the heart of the Niger Delta, where nature's bounty thrives, there lies an opportunity for growth and prosperity. Introducing Dimbarukas Limited, your trusted partner in palm tree cultivation. With our premium palm tree seedlings, you can be a part of a sustainable industry that offers so much more than just oil. Embrace the power of palm oil tree cultivation and unlock a world of possibilities. Join hands with us as we empower local communities and create a greener, more prosperous future. As the great poet once said, the palm tree stands tall, a symbol of strength and abundance. Dimbarukas Limited, cultivating success, one palm tree at a time. Embrace the palm tree's gift and let nature nurture your dreams. To order your premium seedlings, call 0802 664 9683.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Of course, it's a beautiful morning and we're as excited as always to be here this morning, keeping you company on Rise and Shine. It's the Tuesday edition, the last for the month of April. Good morning, Sandra. How are you today?
Good morning, Francis. You've been counting down to the end of the month of April. Well, today is finally the last day in the month of April. the 30.
Mm.
So what next after this?
I'm
Now April
kind-
has ended. Where do you go
I'm
from
kind
here?
of sad because my month is ended, but I'm also excited about the things that are going to happen in the month of May. Like literally, I know that I started off this year feeling positive about a lot of things and just deciding to maintain a positive attitude regardless of the situation of things. And it's been so far a mixture, a fine blend of good and ugly. But in the midst of the good and ugly, I've always found reason to be thankful. And I think the month of April was, predominantly the way it is for me because of so many things. I mean, apart from my birthday being in the month of April, a lot of things, decisions, actions, engagement, involvement with people, with things, just kind of make the month extremely special.
Okay.
And then, in your spirit, tomorrow is May 1st. I don't know if President Ahmed Bola Tinubu will announce because it seems so basically has, created a controversy that we'll have to look into eventually, within the course of Rise and Shine this morning. But Nigerian workers, just a few days ago, we saw TUC even asking for payment of the wage award that was approved by the president that hasn't been paid. And then, of course, when you look at conversations like that, it raises a lot of eyebrow. But let me not expose the card yet. Some of the stories we will be looking at, we'll start from our very home front, backyard, where the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Governor Pastor Umoino, has inaugurated 12 new permanent secretaries, and of course with a charge on them to focus on results-oriented leadership and service delivery. We'll look into that. We see that on a rather sad note, travelers reportedly bait a police woman to death in Rivers State in the midst of her colleagues. Now that's a rather sad one, and we made an attempt to reach out to the PPRO in Rivers State. Unfortunately, not being able to get her, but we do hope eventually when we are able to get her to ask certain questions to her. But we'll look into that story this morning. NERC comes again with another price hike as they announce new prices for prepaid meters. Of course, we will be looking into the fact that Nigerians have begun boycotting the cable TVs as a result of the hike in the different bouquet packages that they've given. Of course, we'll also be looking at the fact that EFCC is probing 1,146 frozen account, and our very own Vice President Shatima has told African leaders that the President Ahmed Bola Tinubu will address the problem of economic sabotage in Nigeria and fix the country as far as the economy is concerned. And this is some of the conversations we'll be bringing your way, so we'll encourage you to be part of it. As usual, you are the most important personality. Of course, you already know that. So the phone lines will be on your screen for you to join in the conversation. And particularly, of course, if you're on the way to work and you're outside and not in front of your TV screen, well, the social media is available. All you have to do is hop on and connect with us at spectrumtvlive.ng, and then you can get to catch up on all the conversations this morning. But this is where Sandra and I will take a short breather, and when we come back, we'll be delving straight into the first story. Well, we see that the Akwa Ibom State Governor, His Excellency Pastor Umoino, as part of plans and activities lined up for the celebration of the first anniversary of the governor as the man in charge of the Hilltop Mansion and lead of Akwa Ibom State piloting the affairs, has inaugurated 12 new permanent secretaries, or should we say sworn in 12 new permanent secretaries. Now, while inaugurating the new permanent secretaries, as well as all the public servants, the governor urged the civil servant to embrace the norm of result-oriented service and not make excuses. Now, speaking at the swearing-in ceremony, the governor noted that as administrative heads of the ministries, the public servants are assigned to They should ensure full implementation of their RISE agenda within their respective ministries. Of course, the newly sworn-in permanent secretaries as listed are Mrs. Grace Pan, Mr. Memodonsek, Dr. Emmanuel Iton, Ignatius Aquera, Mrs. Elsie Peters, Dr. Ibemi, Mr. Edet Nsongwara, and Dr. John Oruk, as well as Dr. Abraham Yangodo, Mrs. Rose Stephen, Mrs. Afyong Ebieme, and Dr. Friday Ido. These are the persons who were sworn in yesterday by the governor of Akwa Ibom State into the respective ministries. The governor noted that the new appointment became necessary to reposition the service to ensure efficiency in government business towards ensuring full implementation of his RISE agenda. Of course, in his usual way, he congratulated the new permanent secretaries who, according to him, emerged by grace and a dint of hard work, and therefore charged them to see their appointment as an opportunity to serve the people diligently. Now, diligently, result-oriented service, Sandra, going back to the time when the governor came on board, shortly after his being sworn in as the governor of Akwa Ibom State, there are certain comments that Governor Pastor Moino made that Akwa Ibomites are still watching and literally waiting to see what action plan is going to take, especially as his first anniversary as the governor of Akwa Ibom State comes on board this month of May that is starting. One of such being that he said he was going to bring the runnings of the organized private sector into governance. He was going to run the Akwa Ibom State government. He was going to run the Akwa Ibom State government like the organized private sector. So you have periodic reviews of the appointees of government. How have they fared? How have they performed in their respective ministries? And at the end of the review, there's going to be a rating, and those who fail are sacked and relieved of their positions. And that was to ensure that politicians, appointees of government, come in not with the mindset of laziness, not with the same old business of always public service, so you can do whatever and nobody's going to do anything to you. But so far, it's almost a year as we speak. I mean, May is just tomorrow. And we've not seen that review. We also remember that President Ahmed Bola Tinubu did say the same thing, that his ministers, appointees were going to be reviewed periodically, and those who were found wanting would have to be, sacked from their, position. But so far, we've not seen that happen at the federal or at the state level. And I know that, just picking the polls from the streets, Akwa Ibomites are literally excited to see what will happen if there is ever going to be a review of the activities of the appointees of Governor Pastor Moino at the federal level, that of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. But let's say, so far, it's been a mix of emotions, a mix of feelings for the Akwa Ibom people. And like the governor said, result-oriented service. I remember just within the course of the weekend, people talking about the fact that you can't expect results to come from a civil service commission or from the different ministries, departments, and agencies of government when people are literally being thought to be lazy. Like, there is no workload, there is no work stress, and that you go to the ministries, the basic things are oftentimes not being provided for, and then you take that away. The ones that have television screen, you literally just find everybody converge and watch TV from morning to when they retire from work. So how are you going to see results coming from such an environment? And then the person added some tint of sour, like, how will a civil service that is driven by the drive to watch African Magic 24/7 be result oriented?
Well, I want to believe that things are happening differently in the Akwa Ibom civil service, or even if they haven't been, I want to believe that from now things are going to begin to happen differently, because the governor also said they have begun to take, or they are beginning to take stock of their services in the past 11 months, which is going to 12, I think, by May. So he said we begin to take stock of our service to Akwa Ibom people in the last 1 year. And he said it is important that we move to ensure that we put things in place and the right structures that will help us grow and make Akwa Ibom better. So if they are beginning to take stock, which means that maybe in a few weeks or few days to come, we might see some reshuffling of some leaders of some agencies or some part of the civil service, because he also mentioned we will continue to reshuffle the permanent secretaries and assign them to different ministries to ensure fresh ideas, drive innovation and value in line with our key performance indicators. And all of these are the statements of Governor Pastor Ewenno, which means that he is reiterating what he said during his inauguration, and he has not forgotten the promise that he made to the people of Akwa Ibom State. So we want to believe that in coming months, even with his appointment of 12 new permanent secretaries, this will be a great move. And with the way he has given them some kind of, would I use the word ginger, as we are coming into this, just know that you are not coming here to relax. So it's just similar to what happened when Wike came into the FCT, and he told the FCT administration that if you have the way he said if you have BP, make sure you are walking up and down with your medication, because I am going to give you high blood pressure. So this is also Governor Ewenno, charging the 12 of them that as you're coming into this into the government, you are here to work for the people, and you're not here to sit around. Instead, this is a government of doers and not just stalkers. So if you're coming, just know that you are coming here to do. You have to show workings and not just say I will. But so far, if you ask me, I'll say that Governor Pastor Ewenno has tried his best to show workings in some aspect of Akwa Ibom State, and I'm hoping that those 12 permanent secretaries and those that are secretaries of government agencies would take a cue from him and work in that same part. And if the 12 of them can actually take a cue from Governor Pastor Ewenno, Akwa Ibom State will be better, I promise you.
Well, Akwa Ibom State will definitely be better if we all do our part, if we all do our business, if we all take serious the responsibilities that has been entrusted to us. But one thing that is shocking and is also very, very saddening, or the highest sign of the service to the Akwa Ibom people, is a comment by the governor that some ministries, departments and agencies of government have not been able to turn in their normal daily reports in the longest while, and that is a slap in the drive of the governor, because if you're not sending in reports, talking about the review, how is the government going to be able to review? As a matter of fact, that could be one of the first way to review and see that you've not been up and doing in the job, in your responsibility. But then it also clearly shows that there is a lack of willpower, or should we rather put it that the people the governor has entrusted have not been really up and doing in some ministries, departments and agencies. And the people would really, Akwa Ibomites are really looking forward to seeing the shake-up that will happen as far as the cabinet of the governor is concerned, those who are going to lose their job. I mean, if you listen to radio stations in Akwa Ibom, so you literally hear Akwa Ibom people calling for either resignation or calling for a sack or calling for these, for that commissioner, for these permanent secretary, for these. Literally, the people know the people who are, the appointees of government who are actually working. They know those who you go to their offices and things are addressed in record time. They know those who are just, making a show and running around the place doing absolutely nothing. And it's expected that His Excellency will be able to resolve that and, change the narrative for the betterment of Akwa Ibom State. And we'll look at the lineup of activities. I mean, a lot. Maybe we'll find one of these days and invite the Information Commissioner to talk about, the lineup of activities for the celebration of the governor's 1-year anniversary. I mean, a whole lineup of activities have been, rolled out. But I'm particularly sad Ibiako Randwe Tonko Road is not one of the road projects that the governor is going to commission within his 1 year in office. And I'm still pained about the fact that we have to go through the hazards of that road every other day to and back from work. But let's say government is a continuum, and the governor is committed to connecting the dots, stemming the tides of rural-urban migration, and most importantly, giving entrepreneurs and enabling business environment. So we're looking forward to the changes in the narrative. But moving away from that, let's go to Rivers State. This particular story, Sandra, when I first happened to come across it, I felt very sad about the fact that things like this are still happening in Nigeria, and under the circumstances that it happened. Now, operatives of Rivers State Police Command said its men have arrested 16 suspects in connection with the murder of a female inspector in front of Tabu Police Station in Kana local government area of the state. The incident occurred in April 25 while the policewoman identified as Christiana Erikere was on duty at the Bori Police Division. The spokesperson for the State Police Command, Grace Iringe Kuko, who disclosed these in a statement issued in Port Harcourt yesterday, said trouble started when the men in a private vehicle were stopped by policemen for a routine search. King Koko said all of a sudden an argument ensued and the occupants became angry and blocked the roads, adding that even after completing the checks and asked to leave, they refused, alleging that the female inspector had recorded their behavior with her phone and attacked her with stones when their attempt to seize the phone failed. A statement reads, and I'll take exactly what the Rivers State PPRO said. The Rivers State Police Command announces the arrest of 16 persons in connection with the tragic death of Inspector Christiana Erikere, who was murdered in the line of duty on April 25, 2024 at approximately 4 p.m. According to preliminary investigations, the incident occurred when a group of individuals traveling in a Lexus Salon car was stopped for routine checks at the checkpoint in front of Taba Police Station. However, the occupant became agitated and proceeded to barricade the road, obstructing the movement of other vehicles. The statement for that said that after completing the necessary checks, the police officer requested that the individuals, now the emphasis while I'm really going through the story is the emphasis on police officers, requested that the individuals leave the scene. Unfortunately, they refused, alleging that Inspector Erikere had recorded a video of their disruptive behavior using a mobile phone. Hence, in their attempt to seize Inspector Erikere's phone forcefully, they launched a violent attack against her, striking her with stones. The severity of the assault caused Inspector Erikere to lose consciousness, and she was immediately transported to Ndadum Hospital in Bori. Regrettably, she succumbed to the injuries sustained during the attack, and according to the statement, of course, that led to her death. Now, I have a serious problem, Sandra. For the longest time, I know that on Rise and Shine, we've been advocating for Nigerians to treat the men and women of the armed forces right, and we're also advocating for the men and women of the armed forces to treat Nigerians right. A mutual collaboration, a mutual partnership, mutual respect, where everyone respects themselves and respects the next person, primarily because all of us have fundamental rights in the country, and also because these are agents of government. I am picturing this, Sandra, and it's a pain, and for me it's a big slap on the police force, particularly the Rivers State Police Command. How is it possible for people, civilians, to mop a police officer in the line of duty, in the midst of her colleagues who are armed? How is it possible? And then we are very eager, we are very okay as a police force to issue a press release detailing how the incident happened, that a police personnel was stoned to death, literally, in the midst of our colleagues, because she was doing her duty. Now, we know that in the era of social media and in the event of some occurrences, it is also very important for you to have evidences, because sometimes the Nigerian police personnel get blamed for not, people will say, okay, so where is the evidence that this person actually did this or those people did that? So what the police inspector was doing was actually having evidence. And if the people had not done the action that the unruly behavior, there was no way she would have brought her phone to begin to film. So why did the police force, the personnel who were with her, not react and not prevent the situation? That is my biggest question this morning.
My question now back to you, Francis. What were you expecting to have been their reaction? I know they were armed, but what were you expecting to have been their reaction? Because I remember over the weekend I was having a lengthy conversation with a friend and we spoke about a lot of things going on in the police force. And the truth is, if they reacted, taking into consideration that they were armed, maybe they would have shot one or two persons and reverse would have been the case, because the story would have taken a different turn. But then they were not normal thinking, and in the right of the police force, you cannot go against the civilian that is not armed.
But that is armed.
That is not proper arm. Like, he was like making me to understand that you cannot go head to head with a civilian using your arm when a civilian is armed with a stick or stone. So maybe on their own part, they were just trying to do the right thing as in the code of conduct of the police, Nigerian police, for the first time and see how it turned out. Let's say others would have, some people, some trigger happy officers would have gone the other route and maybe shot 1 or 2 persons, and they might still be on their right if you judge it from based on what they have done so far. But these ones, maybe they were just trying. And the question is, how sure are you that they were armed? What if they just had their batons and all? That's all they had? You wouldn't know. So it's very terrible that civilians, ordinary Nigerians, feel like they have the power to abuse. Because I know that sometimes when we talk about police brutality and all of that and how it turns out, we only hear how how we condemn the police officers, not taking into consideration what you did, that's a civilian, what you did before the counter reaction of the Nigerian police force, or let me say in the course of maybe self-defense, and a police officer decides to shoot somebody and the other person dies, but then it doesn't always turn out. It's going to be like trigger happy police officer kills the rest of that story, because the other party is dead, will not be told. So we're seeing this situation, and Francis is wondering, why did the other police officers run away? What if they were unarmed? This is 30 people against how many police officers would have been on a stop and search duty at that point? And I'm very sure they are not up to 15 at the same time. Stop and search duty against 30 people. And you're wondering, why did all of them feel like they had the power to go against or to challenge police officers on a stop and search duty? It's a very terrible situation, and I cannot wrap my head around what that woman actually went through before she finally gave up.
My pain and my anger, as they Sandra, you ask, were they armed? How am I sure if they were armed? I would want to return that same question. Have you ever seen, because I'm yet to see a police checkpoint where there are no police officials with actual guns, standing. They might not all have guns, but
I also
definitely
said that it is not right. Like, it's not in the constitution and the code of conduct of the Nigerian
Leave
police.
the code of conduct for us.
We cannot.
When you're talking about code of conduct, Sandra, when you come to a matter of life and death, as a police personnel, you are supposed to defend yourself. As a police personnel, now I think maybe we'll have to call one of the literally maybe reach out to the police speaker. But I know that in the code of conduct of the Nigerian police force, I stand corrected though, that when you are faced with danger, it's either killed or get killed, or you defend yourself. Now in this instance, clearly there was an intent to kill, because nobody picked stones and targeted the next person in a mob attack when you don't have the intent to kill. And so the police personnel, they should have known that, not just, okay, we're talking about one person. What if all of them were under the attack? So one of your colleagues is targeted, even if
they were all targeted, but I feel like because she was a woman,
she was the most targeted, because she was the one who recorded. So it seems like, every other person, the picture I'm saying is like every other police personnel was like, it's her that is being the target. Let's hold hands of, and then she goes in for it. And then that also takes me to that two concerns that is coming from there. Are we looking at a situation where the police personnel already had some kind of beef with the lead police officer? Because we've seen situations where other colleagues refuse to come to their colleagues' aid because they had some beef in the line of duty against a person. That's one concern. The other concern is, what on earth would stop them? Because Sandra, in the midst of police personnel or any security agents being, abused, there are lined up protocols. When you see that your life is threatened, it is like the issue when you talk about people going after kidnappers, for instance. You're going after kidnappers, and we know that the rule of engagement of the Nigerian police force is that you harass the person, bring the person in for integration and all of that. But you are looking at a kidnapper with an AK-47 ready to gun you down. So you're telling me that Nigerian police are now not allowed at that instance to return back fire for fire?
Because the kidnapper has AK-47, like you mentioned, so that's a weapon. But like the person, what I learned, a stick is not a weapon enough for you to shoot someone.
Let me bring you an interesting twist to that. As far as the Nigerian police force is concerned, and as far as security matter is concerned, even a stick can be considered as an ammunition. When it is used to threaten the life of another person, when it is used to induce fear in the life of another person, when it is used to reduce somebody to something that that person is naturally, like maybe I pick up a stone and I threaten you and you give me your phone. That stone at that moment is considered an ammunition. If we have to follow that context, at this point, picking that stone was enough reason for the Nigerian police personnel to react. Not literally shooting the next person or shooting the people, but Sandra, we know the Nigerian police is trained to deal with situations. So where was the professionalism? Where was the comradeship of protecting the next person in a line of duty? We wouldn't be here talking about the death of a police personnel if the right thing was followed through. So I feel like there is a lot of missing link in the story, and it's only Grace, the PPRO for the River State Police Command, that is only going to be able to answer this question. But just to put home the story, I feel Nigerians need a lot more reorientation. Because when you look at it, the men and women of the security forces are people's family as well. They are people's husband, they are people's wife, they are people's mothers, aunts, uncles, and what have you. Now, if you as a person, as a Nigerian, you would feel not okay by being intimidated, being abused by a police person or any security agency, as a Nigerian as well, you should always submit. Now, it was a stop and search. What was the essence of all the feud? Unless you have something to hide. And from the story, you could see you had nothing to hide. So you were being stopped for a routine check. If you had no skeleton in your cupboard, you had no illegal weapons or anything on you, all of you were in the vehicle, then there should have been no reason for the reaction. So we need to also get to that point. But my biggest pain is that this police personnel is dead and gone. And no matter what happens, yes, you've arrested 16 persons. What is the guarantee that these 16 persons are going to be charged? I mean, we've seen cases spiral out of proportion or turn the other way in favor of people who committed crimes in this country. So how are we sure that we're going to get justice for the late police officer?
Well, I'm hoping that we actually get justice, because this is a very disheartening story. And if actually she still has, or there's still an evidence, because like I said, she made videos of whatever it is that transpired before it got worse. And my question is, why do people feel like they are being targeted? Like once they see a sight or see a police officer, you just want to take or want to just start getting aggressive. What exactly transpired? The papers for one of the vehicles that they were traveling in was being questioned, and they just refused to answer the question and decided to, go rogue on the police officers. This is a very bad situation. And like Francis already said, Nigerian police force or members of officers of the Nigerian police force, all they are trying to do is their job, which is safeguarding the lives and properties of Nigerians. But at the end of the day, it feels like we Nigerians are not even letting them do the job that they have been employed to do. And at the end of the day, we talk about issues of insecurity, because taking for instance, tomorrow something is going wrong in River State or this Taba area for an instance, and the Nigerian police refuses to show up. Then it will not be a situation of we call the police and they refuse to show up. But if they constantly get abused in such locality and people are not saying anything about it, how do you now expect them to show up when the people of those communities actually need them in critical situations? And these are the issues. When we talk about we called police and the police did not show up, how would you show up? This is a very disheartening situation, because I'm just imagining. She's a widow actually, so she might have children that she has left behind, and nobody knows the fate of those children henceforth. And this is a very sad situation. And like Francis also said, I think we need to also ask questions to the officers that were on duty with her. What exactly went wrong, and why was she abandoned? Why was she let to suffer alone? What actually went wrong? How bad was the situation that they had to abscond and let her be? It's a very sad situation, and I feel very terrible that she had to go that way.
Well, it's indeed a very sad situation, and I do hope that we're able to get justice for her, and indeed that all Nigerians get to be more up and doing in their dealings with the Nigerian police force. I mean, I would always say, put yourself in the position of the personnel. If you were them, how would you react? I know that Nigerians would always say, police are brutal, they abuse Nigerians' rights and all of that. But let's also balance. It is not all the police personnel who are criminally minded. It is not all of the force personnel who are always happy to go against the laws and guidelines of operations or engagement. So the few ones who do well, if you see them, then the police force has made it open for you to also report for them, to be punished according to the law. I mean, Sandra, in recent times we've seen different police personnel or even military personnel being discharged from their duties, and then sent to the appropriate panels or investigative agency for proper investigation and all of that. So I feel like we need to do a lot more sensitization. We need to do a lot more in terms of how we deal with issues in the country. But moving away from that, we go to Governor Obaseki, who has taken a narrative of increasing the minimum wage of the workers in Edo State. Now we see that the Edo State Governor Obaseki, has explained the reasons behind the increase in the minimum wage for workers in the state from 40,000 to 70,000 naira. He said it was due to the recent exchange rate devaluation, economic realities and high food prices, inflation and willingness to get people to work better. Speaking to newsmen yesterday, the governor said his administration felt the pain of the state workers and implemented the move to make life better for them. He noted that the current national economic realities were forces beyond his control, but he could not continue to let workers languish in pain and penury. Justifying the increment, he said, the government and governance are about our people. You cannot claim to be doing well as a government if your people are in penury and unhappy. Now, in 2011, when the minimum wage was 18,000, the exchange rate was 150 naira per dollar. So, by calculations, workers in Edo State were taking home $120 monthly. When the increased minimum wage got to 40,000 in 2022, the exchange rate as at that time was 415 naira. So, workers were getting about $96, which was a discount on what they were earning in 2011. Of course, all of the conversations about the calculation comes in. And here is a twist to this conversation, Sandra. Nigerians are asking, in the wake of this, Obaseki has already paid his state at 70,000 naira. What happens when the organized labor, the current negotiations between federal government, TUC, NLC, stakeholders, now eventually come out with a new minimum wage and it's higher than 70,000? What is Obaseki going to do? Will he join the group of politicians or governors who say, oh, we've already staked our own prices and we cannot go past that? Or he's going to readjust the new minimum wage? Because the people of Edo State felt like he should have waited until the conversations around the new minimum wage by the federal government is concluded and then announced, and then the state can take a cue from that. Remember, it's called the benchmark minimum wage, which means the state can decide to increase based on what available resources is there for them and their own capabilities.
Well, if you also take a look at that story, we know that Obaseki was actually paying 40,000 naira minimum wage in Edo State compared to the 30,000 naira that other states were paying, or that we said was the national minimum wage of 30,000, while he was paying 40. I want to believe that taking the initiative to go ahead and increase the minimum wage for his workers in Edo State, with or without the federal government announcing the new minimum wage, is a step in the right direction. Because I'm considering a situation whereby come tomorrow, or be it tomorrow, be it 29th, and there is no minimum wage, or we're asked to wait for a few more months, that might actually be the situation. And I want to believe that if for some reason the new minimum wage goes above 70,000 naira, you won't tell me that Obaseki will decide to not go with the new minimum wage because he already upped his and 70,000 naira. Because if he is complaining that still with 70,000 naira, like he said, even with the 70,000 naira minimum wage, that people in those states just take home $55 US compared to the $120 US that they were taking home in the year 2011. I want to believe that he is not still comfortable with 70,000 naira minimum wage that he has just implemented. So we're also looking forward to see what the president of Nigeria is going to say regarding the new minimum wage, if there's going to be any in recent times. or if we have to wait till other months, because there's still a possibility of federal government saying, okay, not this May, we have to wait till June or thereabout.
Well,
but,
I don't want to look at that possibility. I literally don't want to look at that possibility, because
why not,
it is going to be a problem if we have to wait another
Because
extension.
I remember, like, a few days ago, there was the story on the news where the NLC said they are yet to come to a conclusion regarding the talks of the new minimum wage. So if they are yet to come to a conclusion, or the conversations are not having any fruitful results at 2 to 3 days ago, well, a lot can happen in a day. So we want to believe that maybe before tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, before the 29th of May 2024, a new minimum wage might be announced. But what if it's not in all of the presidential speech for 29th of May, and the president says not this month, maybe let's start somewhere August. So it's still going to be that Obaseki has started paying the 70,000 naira minimum wage before we get the new one. But I still want to believe that when the new minimum wage is being implemented, hoping that it is above 70,000 naira, he is going to key into that. We just actually hope that it's above 70,000 naira, because we cannot guarantee that the new minimum wage might go up to 615,000 naira as proposed by the Labour. We are not certain about that, so we don't know what to expect. But once the new minimum wage is put out there, I want to believe that Obaseki is going to actually key into that.
Well, I do hope he's able to key into it, and I want to come to your sentiment of hope expressed in the person of Governor Obaseki, and of course looking at the fact that they did more than some of the states, even states that have more money than those states, and in terms of how much they've been paying before now, it's a wonderful thing. But Nigerians can't wait to hear what the president is going to announce as a new minimum wage, what the final decision is going to be, literally. But then, of course, the conversation is also for the government to pay the wage award that they agreed with the organized labor, so just to make sure that we do not go to another fresh bout of people walking out on strike, or the labor embarking on another industrial action which will ground their activities. But moving on to the next fresh news this morning, just to wrap up our flash news, we see that the NERC has announced new prices for single three-phase meters. Of course, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has adjusted the prices of a single-phase meter from 58,661 naira 69 kobo to 81,975 naira 16 kobo. It also adjusted the price of three-phase meter from 109,684 naira 36 kobo to 143,836 naira 10 kobo. The adjustment were contained in an order number NERC 2024-040, and the Commission's chairman, Engineer Sanusi Garaba, and Commissioner Legal and Licensing Compliance, Barrister Dafe Akpeneye, issued yesterday. Of course, the title of the order was Deregulation of Meter Prices for Meters Deployed Under the Meter Asset Provider Scheme. The chairman and commission said the meter asset provider and national mass metering regulations. The regulation provide the metering of end-use customers of successor electricity distribution licenses. This goes a lot of controversies about the phases and all of that happening. Sandra, it seems like we're not going to see an end to the hiking in services in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And the most painful thing is that the National Assembly have not spoken to this matter yet. Most other, should I call it, the concerns of Nigeria is that we're gradually becoming a country where just anything happens, and people in position of government or the businesses just wake up and decide what prices they want to fix, and that is all there is to it. There is no intervention, there is no engagement, and then Nigerians would ask, was there a conversation with the relevant stakeholders? Were Nigerians taken into consideration? Was the economic reality in the country taken into consideration before all of this price hike? Because people are going to ask, how did we get to this point, and how are we going to navigate going further?
Well, I want to believe that, or I was expecting to hear some kind of statement, but since this is coming from the NERC, I was hoping that, because I remember they said a few months ago or last month that by the year 2025 they are hoping to have metered over 2 million Nigerians, and in my mind I'm like, is this how we tend to meter over 2 million Nigerians with a hike in the price of the meter? So a single phase meter is now going for above 80,000 naira. How many people can afford that? That's going to be the first question. How many people can afford to buy a single phase meter for above 80,000 naira? And a 3-phase meter is over 140,000 naira. How many Nigerians are going to be able to afford that? Then you're taking that side by side with, we want to meter above 2 million Nigerians in the year 2025. How is that going to be possible? The issue of price hike of different things, commodities, services, is becoming a serious conversation, because the president on his own part is saying some of the serious conversation or serious decisions that he has made is for the betterment of the country, it's for the betterment of the economy. But then we all see that it's not going as he planned, or I don't know what he thought before making some of these policies. But we all see right now that it's not going as he planned. So we're taking a look at where Nigerians are not actually able to afford this single or 3-phase meters. That still leads us to estimated billing that Nigerians are already complaining about. So for how long are we going to have these issues, this back and forth with electricity distribution before we get it right? When I saw the news, it said NEC approved the adjustment. I was kind of excited because I was hoping that it was a downward adjustment. I didn't, till I opened the news, I'm like, oh, it's an upward adjustment. So how do we cope with this? Because we've been talking about paying of electricity bills. So that was one of the reasons I feel like if we're talking about adjusting payment of electricity bills, it should be some kind of downward adjustment so that Nigerians can be able to afford it. And, you know, we'll stop having this conversation of people not being able to pay for electricity
estimated bills.
And I saw an upward adjustment. I'm like, oh. So, because I had that story of by 2025, we should have metered over 2 million Nigerians. So I was excited about the news till I opened the full story. I'm like, no, this is not the way to go with all of the things that NEC has claimed they want to achieve when it comes to electricity and electricity distribution in Nigeria. This does not add up.
Well, it definitely does not add up. And Nigerians would say it is the job of the representatives of the people to address issues like this. It is the job of the civil society organizations. It is our collective right and responsibility to be treated fairly in the midst of all the economic hardships that we have faced as a people. And just in line with that, wrap up this story, we see it's been like a spate of increment upon increment by different companies and businesses. Of course, recently we woke up to GoTV, DSTV, hiking the price of their service bouquets for Nigerians, even when they have been, defaulting in other areas. We see that a federal high court in Abuja has issued an order to halt the planned increase in subscription prices by MultiChoice Nigeria Limited, the operator of DSTV and GoTV. The court's decision comes in response to MultiChoice's announcement of a forthcoming price increment across its DSTV and GoTV packages, set to take effect from May 1st, that's tomorrow, 2024. The company cited a rise in the cost of business operations in Nigeria due to price adjustment. According to the notice signed by MultiChoice CEO John Ubet, subscribers received via email the new prices for DSTV packages included increases for the premium packages now priced at 37,000 monthly, up from the current 29,500 subscription fee. Now, however, the court's intervention has temporarily placed a stop to the planned price increases, offering relief to subscribers who expressed concern over the successive hikes in subscription fees over the past years. MultiChoice has faced criticism for the frequency of its subscription fee increment, with these being the third increase in the past year alone. That's third increases in the past year alone. And you are not satisfied with the past increases that you made. In the midst of all of this, when things were going good, you increase. You give reasons. When things were normal, you increase. And now it's like you're finding the ultimate reason to completely hike the prices. But the concerns of Nigerians is, will this court order from the Federal High Court of Abuja be enough to stop MultiChoice? Will we see a compliance? will the Nigerian government rise up to the responsibility? And I'll still say this, Sandra, this is the time for us to ensure that all the businesses operating in this country transact with Nigerians and deal with Nigerians just like they deal with other customers from across the globe. We need to get to a point where every subscription is pay as you use. That I can get to subscribe my cable TV, and as long as I don't watch it, that subscription stays. Only when I watch, and then I watch until the subscription runs to an end. Not you subscribe, and in a full month, you've not been able to sit in front of your TV for 5 good days, and that money goes down the air. And the subscription companies or the cable companies are the ones benefiting, ripping off Nigerians literally. We need to go to a point where it is pay as you go or prepaid. That means if I recharge, as long as I don't use it, whatever amount I recharge stays with me. And until I'm able to use it, then I can exhaust what I've recharged for. This is the time for us to have that conversation as a people, as a government. And just to wrap this up, Sandra, there is this man that has decided to boycott, subscriptions to the cable TVs, and he stated that, he had gotten to that point of making that hard decision because it has become, unfortunately, that he's not going to be able to. Now, I'm going to quote him directly. This is coming from popular apostle and traditional ruler Chibuzo Give Chinyere decides to boycott DSTV, and he wrote, "Finally, it's a decision I did not want to make, but necessary I make it. Millions of Nigerians can no longer meet up with the current price of DSTV Gold TV subscription because of the current economic reality in Nigeria. So as my current subscription is expiring, I shall not be renewing my DSTV subscription until DSTV reduces the price. Starting from today, I will be searching for alternatives that will be watching news, because basically it's major news and OPM TV, which is a 24-hour television station I watch when I'm chanced. Now, the emphasis is when I'm chanced. But DSTV, no to renewal of subscription until prices are reviewed downwards from His Royal Majesty King Apostle Chibuzo Give Chinyere." And the question on the back of that story is it not time for Nigerians to take a bold step against those that want to suffocate us with price hike?
Francis, I know that I saw a recent story somebody posted, or just a post. Somebody posted and gave like 5 different alternatives to, multi-choice that people can actually explore at this time. And somebody in the comment section said, take it or leave it. People in this Nigeria, even if we all decide and, say we are going to boycott multi-choice, people in this Nigeria are still going to go ahead and subscribe to that platform. Take it or leave it. No matter how you feel like, oh, this is a bad situation, this is a bad condition, people are still going to subscribe to it. But then I agree with Mr. Chibuzo. There should be some kind of resistance from Nigerians so that they understand that we do not accept this wholeheartedly. Because taking a look at the economic situation of Nigeria, I feel like this should be a collective, we are all holding hands to make sure that things work in Nigeria. Not all companies now decided that this is the best time to hike the price of their commodities, because yes, the economy is not smiling and we also need to make profit, and we don't care if Nigerians actually buy or not, because as a company we need to make profit. Because when you say that the price of a bouquet on multi-choice or DSTV, for instance, is above 37,000 naira, which is above minimum wage, and somebody will say, hey, it's not for everybody. Really, it's not for everybody. Take 37,000 naira away from whatever money that it is you have. I know it's not for everybody, but it also needs to be considerate, because the price hike was not, like I said the other day, the price hike was not by 500 naira. The list of them is almost 3,000 naira increase, and that like for the cheapest bouquet that we have on DSTV. For the one that is above, that is almost 37,000 naira, the increase was almost like a 10,000 naira increase. And people say, yeah, some people are still going to watch it. Yes, I know that some people are going to watch it, but the question is, can an average Nigerian be able to afford that subscription at the moment? These are the questions that we should be asking, because we are taking a look at cable television hike, we are taking a look at electricity tariff hike. Now we're talking about this morning, the NCC also spoke about some of the companies under NCC spoke about hike recently, and this morning we're talking about another one. How much hike are we going to expect? Taking a look at how oppressed Nigerians are by the economic situation of the country. How many more hikes are we expecting? I saw a news this morning that some filling stations are now selling petrol calmly at 800 naira. Just quietly selling petrol at 800 naira. Why? Now, FCCPC has been moving around, and like I said yesterday, I was hoping that something good was supposed to come out from that FCCPC visiting markets and all of that, but for some reasons it's not happening, and I'm wondering why exactly. For now, the court has said the multi-choice cannot increase their the prices of their commodities. And Francis say, do we think they are going to? They don't have an option to not yield to the court orders, and this is the problem in Nigeria. Some people just take a look at the judiciary and it's just one lawyer wearing suit and wig, and you just go ahead and do what. People should start facing the consequences of their actions. The court has said no to the tariff, to the hike in subscription. If they decide to go ahead and do whatever it is that they like, well, it's the place of the court to charge whoever it is that is culpable, and let people begin to face the consequences of their action in Nigeria. Hold people accountable so that others can learn from their mistakes.
Well, it's a serious conversation, Sandra, but just before we go and leave this conversation, it's a problem that in Nigeria we do not have strong competitions. And that takes my mind back to a report of Nigeria shutting down a private TV and radio station tied to opposition member and business tycoon Raymond Dakosi, of course, accused of intimidation, crackdown on the media and other things by the government of Nigeria. Of course, we saw that the Nigerian Broadcasting Authority shut down private radio and television station owned by a key opposition figure who, as Ellie said, his media operations were being targeted in a crackdown. Of course, that was way back. And then, of course, if you look at the fact that TSTV offered pay-as-you-go services to Nigerians, you would literally wish that we had protected what we have as a country, and we were able to not mix politics with development and advancement. Because if we had competitions, first and foremost, I mean, that was one of the things. I remember how Nigerians were excited when the pay-as-you-go, conversation came on board, and people knew, you can actually choose the channels that you want to watch and pay for those channels. Like, it literally was like putting a price tag on the different channels. So if you pick 5 channels, you pick 10 channels, this is how much it's going to amount to, and then you pay for the subscription. And you also know that as long as you are not using that subscription, it's going to stay waiting for you. It's like recharge card, for crying out loud. When you recharge and you don't make a call, your call card is intact. As soon as you make a call, you know that you're beginning to deplete the exact funds that you had recharged or loaded on your phone. So we need to get to that point in the country where people understand, businesses understand that Nigerians are not fools. Nigerians are not cash cows that anybody can come into the country and just exploit the Nigerian people. And this is where I'll always have issues with the Nigerian Consumer Protection Council. What exactly are we doing? The Nigerians are exploited on a daily basis. Businesses, corporations come into the country and just run their businesses as usual. Things that you will not hear or see happening in Sena clans in other countries, even within Africa. We tolerate it in Nigeria. Are we so corrupt that we cannot care about the welfare of the next person? Are we so powerless as a country that people can literally take us for a ride in the park? I mean, we've not forgotten the fact that the National Assembly, for instance, will say you're summoning a multinational company to answer over a sensitive issue as corporate social responsibility and the lack of involvement or investment into the community that they are situated in. And we see public offices or multinational not answering, and all we see is threats and counter threats and plans to do this and plans to do that. And how long are we going to remain here?
Well, I don't know how long we're going to remain here, but I'm just hoping that the government of Nigeria decides or wakes up to sit up to some of those responsibilities. Because for some reasons, I kept thinking, why did TSTV fail in the market? What happened? What was the issue? We all know that it's politicking and some bureaucracy and all of that. And this is also what almost happened to Epis on the international scene. If Epis did not speak up, like the man,
I wish it would not even happen.
He came out screaming, like he screamed for himself and for his company and for the sake of Nigerians. So I feel like if for some reasons we could go back to, homegrown solutions to some of these issues, start up a cable company that provides cable network to Nigerians where you can pay as you use. Because when you think about the economic situation of the country, the electricity situation of the country, and how much is used to subscribe your television, you see that it's not adding up. Then you now talk about the price hike. This doesn't make sense. So the federal government has to actually sit up. The FCCPC, Francis has called you out again, and I'm still saying it. I was expecting more from the FCCPC. When I heard they were, doing some kind of task force kind of activity, I was excited about that. But for some reasons, it's not yielding any fruit that I see. Maybe in some localities, maybe in some states, people are beginning to see the effect of that, but I haven't. And I'm speaking from my own perspective. I haven't, and it's very heartbreaking because at this point, I feel like we here in Akwa Ibom should be seeing the difference, but we haven't. The court has given its order, and I'm hoping that Multichoice does the right thing. And I want to believe that they did not present their case enough, or the court did not see any reason. When they presented their case, maybe they didn't have a good enough reason, and that towards the reaction of the court or towards the judgment of the court.
Well, it is still in the hands of the executive to enforce the law. And if they don't, then we're still going to see a breach.
I don't think there needs to be any enforcement. It's a court judgment. And normally, when the court gives a judgment, the right thing to do is to...
All right, I think we have a caller on the line. Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Inyobong calling from New York.
Inyobong.
Good morning.
All
right, welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Please, the situation on ground is very, very unfortunate because the people that we voted into office do not have any of us in their minds. All what they do is to go there, embezzle all the money as much as they can. They don't care whether we live or whether we are dying or whether we are progressing or retrogressing. All what they care about is just to embezzle the money and then run away with it. I'm just asking that God should please help us deliver us from this politician that we have, the current politician. Because as in the situation, none of them would ever say something about it. None of them would say anything about it. So I'm just praying that God should please help us one day and give us politicians that will have a citizen in their minds, in whatever they are doing, in their policy and whatever they are doing, so that the common man can breathe, as the president said that they should allow the poor to breathe. Thank you very much. I'm Inyobong calling from you.
Oh, thank you, Inyobong calling from you.
As you can see, the poor, they are not there. In fact, this is not even an oxygen situation. The poor is not breathing. Because all of this hiking fees and hiking price and hiking this and hiking that, how would the poor breathe? The president has said initially, let the poor breathe. Even the rich say,
let the poor breathe. Are we really breathing in Nigeria?
The rich at this point are not even breathing. So how would the poor breathe? This is a very critical situation. I'm looking at all of the hikes that we've spoken about in recent times. Francis, as of yesterday, I know that fuel sold at 750 naira.
Yeah.
And it's just happening quietly, quietly. Nobody is saying anything about that. At this moment, it's 800 naira. Still, nobody is saying anything about that.
Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Victor Chukwemeka. I'm calling from Niger State.
Victor,
morning, Victor.
Welcome.
Thank you. I want to comment as regards to the police woman that was brutally killed in Rivers State. You know, the way Nigeria is most of the time, these men and women in uniform, like seriously, the way they intimidate the ordinary citizens, sometimes you ask yourself if you are part and parcel of this country. So it makes some people that are impatient to even take laws into their hands. Like even me personally, in short, I'm a victim. One certain day I was traveling with my car. So they stopped me at a stop and start checkpoint. They asked me of my particulars. I presented my particulars. They asked me of everything, including fire extinguisher. I presented it. So when they found out that every of my papers were complete, what the police officer now said that I should open the bonnet of my car. When I opened the bonnet of the car, he started checking the engine number that was written in my particulars with the engine number in the car. Well, he now said that a number was omitted. I told him, so you see the particulars. I'm not the one that wrote it. I'm not the one that printed it. Or does it look like a forged document? If there is any error there, maybe it will come from the VIO that made the particulars for me. Before you know it, this man said that if I don't settle him, that we are going to, that you will take me to police station. This one and that one. You know that it ended up bringing argument between me, my friend that was in the car, and the man. It was one of the police officers by the side that just called me. I said that I should just find something for the man and go my way. If not, here I am just here wasting my time, and here they will be here till the evening. So if I end up here with them till evening, I will be the one losing, not them. So to avoid everything, I just removed the 500 naira just to the man. The man now said that ain't me, I will show wiseness now. I'm not today for show me better. You see that type of a thing. What if out of the argument that we did, the thing now resulted to violence? So most of the times in Nigeria, I believe that even the uniform men, they need more reorientation even than we, the ordinary men. Because most of the time, in short, once they are in that uniform, they see themselves as mini gods.
Well, Victor, let's correct an impression. First off, you bribed a police officer because you did not stand up for your right till the end. Because if you had gotten to the police station, yes, you would have been delayed from what it is you wanted to do or where it is you were going to, and you probably would have missed an appointment. But then, the court, the law has given us the opportunity to seek for justice. And if you had followed us earlier on, we have seen how police officials who are corrupt and are caught in the line of duty as collecting bribe have been fired from the police force. So for us to solve the problem in the country or across the institutions, we also need to learn to master the art to stand for a right. And confrontation is not the right way to go. There are different ways the laws are made possible. I mean, the simplest thing the Nigerian police force will tell you, pick the batch number, pick the location, pick the vehicle, and then go your way. As long as you have your right, like you rightly stated, your particulars were all in check, and this person went an extra mile to try and find fault just because he wanted you to bribe him. You had grounds to take that case up, but you didn't, you didn't continue, and then you let it go, which means a lot more Nigerians are still going to be exploited by this same police official.
Oh, it's really terrible. So that is my take. That is my take on it. We should just try and reorientate ourselves for this country to be moved forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor.
You are welcome.
Well, it's a different narrative. I know that. I think I've shared several times a different encounter. I mean, literally most Nigerians will tell you they've had encounters with the police personnel. And we know there are some who would want to vent their frustrations on the Nigeria. I mean, imagine a police officer who is not properly paid, and then you're coming out to work, and then maybe some criminally minded, superior is sitting down and telling you, today you have to submit XYZ amount of money. You're going to want to do everything to return that money so you don't get into issues. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Coming from Benue State.
Please turn down the volume of your TV set so we can hear you better.
All right. So my contribution is the policewoman.
Yes, please. Go ahead. I think we lost connection there. I do hope you can get to call back, tell us your name, and then go ahead with your contributions. But this is a balanced narrative. Like Victor has said, we need to do proper reorientation. Maybe the Nigerian police force need to go on a different level of awareness and then go on proper retraining of their personnel to know the rules of engagement. I mean, literally, you've seen I know I had an experience where police personnel tore off a particular from my car, because he felt like, I have seen everything was intact, and then he was just looking. Imagine a young guy driving a certain car. You're like, no, this guy shouldn't be the one driving this car. And then you check his particulars. There is nothing for you to incriminate him. You just want to find a way to get something. And then he tore out the police permit. But what he didn't know was that I had my original. I gave him the photocopy. I had my original still in the car. So when he did that and began to raise an issue, I just picked the original, went to the superior officer and showed him. And that case was resolved. Now, I didn't have the time to pursue it, but obviously, the warning that came from the senior police officer to him to be careful of what he does on the road should have sunk with him, and he should have taken his lesson from that. So, as Nigerians, we need to know how to go about asking for right. Remember, confrontation is never the solution. Violence is never the solution. If we do the right thing and follow through the right process, we're going to have a lot more criminal element within the commissions or the services being weeded out, and it's to our own advantage. Because if we must be honest, Sandra, if you look at the percentage of criminals within the agencies of government, whether it's the police or the military or anyone, they are not as big or in number, as significant in number as compared to those who are doing their job professionally and within their stipulated rights. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, I think we lost connection. The network probably doing a number on us.
Also, before we even get to the part of retraining, I think from the initial, we should talk about the mode of employment of police officers in the Nigerian police force. Because I know that when ordinary police officers are being employed, the mode of employment is not always the very best. Because I'm going to state this. When we were in school, there was one particular, I'm going to say he's a cultist. He was a cultist, like a very, one of the most popular
cultists on campus.
On campus, he was a terrorist in the school environment. And for some reasons, at some point, he disappeared. So people were like, he was arrested, he was at the police station, he has jackpot, all those kind of, And one day, he posted a picture of him dressed in Nigerian police uniform.
Oh my goodness. I can imagine the reaction.
Like, the whole school went... I feel like that particular post, a lot of people saw it. So, like, it was like news that this person has joined police. So, you can imagine that you are a terrorist from that. I don't know how he repented or what transpired with himself and his spirit. And he transitioned into a Nigerian police officer. And someone said, whatever it is that made him to join he felt like he was just going there to take refuge. When everybody's looking for just okay, let me go here and hide. So what do you expect from that kind of person in years to come? What kind of police officer do you expect him to be? What quality of service do you expect him to give to an average Nigerian? These are the issues. You see people just wake up and then just go and join the police, Nigerian police. I don't know if there's some kind of background check. When you employ for a job, there's some kind of background check. Where are you coming from? What places have you worked before? What have you been doing in your life in the past 5 years, 3 years, 4 years? I don't think this kind of things happen because there's sometimes that you look at people in Nigerian police force and you're like, how did you get here? Because if proper check is being done, you do not even deserve to be working freely in the world, not talk of joining the Nigerian police force. And later in life, maybe years to come, he might be armed. It gets to the point where he's given an arm as an officer.
Oh, definitely.
What do you expect for that kind of person? Take into consideration the kind of life that he has lived for the most of his life.
Now, those categories of people are the group Nigerians will tell you. Literally, they are the criminal element, the bad element.
Do you know how many of them are in the Nigerian police force? You have a couple of them.
You have some of them. And the Nigerian police force is not aware. They are aware of this situation. But one thing, just to put off this conversation and head out, is the fact that as a people, like Sandra has said, there needs to be checks and balances. I know that now in schools, when you're contesting for student union leadership and all of that, there is a thorough background check. The DSS, the SSS, the police, the other military agencies are brought in to check people to be sure that, you don't have a mark, you're not a cultist, you're not this and that. But even though that is being questioned and people have concerns as to how serious the thorough check is for most people, because oftentimes you still wake up and say that, this XYZ student union president is a cultist or belong to this frak or all of that conversation that people have. But the bulk of the responsibility is for Nigerian security forces. We need to be a lot more intentional in our recruitment processes, so we don't bring in retired criminals or cult
who are
is
looking for
a safe haven to stay and hide under the umbrella of the government to perpetrate crimes on the Nigerian people into the fold and then further embolden them. But this is the size of our conversation. We'll take a short time out, and when we come back, we'll be going straight to the front pages of our national dailies, and of course, we'll be having more conversations on Rise and Shine. Please stay.
Rise and shine. Rise and shine.
Welcome back. We move now to Daily Spotlight, where we bring you headlines from the front pages of our national dailies. And without wasting much time, I think it's safe to begin with the Vanguard this morning. The boldest headline on the Vanguard is on fare hike, and it says travelers, commuters groan as fuel scarcity bites harder. The writer to that story says, we have adopted new strategy to end shortage, says Neyman. It will take a few days to eliminate queues, says the NNPC. Task force raids filling stations in Ilorin once against hurdle as Lagos state government once against creating gridlock on roads. And that story is a page 5 read on the Vanguard for today. Banks expand loan size by 57% to 37.2 trillion naira, and that's on the top of our Vanguard newspaper for this morning. That story is a page 19 read. DSTV, GoTV rates high. Tribunal stops multi-choice. That story is a page 3 read. Illegal forex trading. Court okays EFCC request to freeze 1,146 bank accounts. $10 billion required annually for 10 years to fix power sector, says the federal government. That's a very interesting one there. $10 billion required annually for 10 years. So we're looking at $100 billion to fix the power sector in Nigeria. And you're wondering, where would that kind of money come from? I see more borrowing in sight. Well, away from that headline, terrorism financing, court cheat federal government over shoddy prosecution of Tokoro Mamu. That's a page 9 read. 2024 UTME JAMB releases 1,842,464 candidate results and withholds 64,624. That story is a page 4 read on the Vanguard for this morning. In sport, NFF appoints Finidi as coach of the Super Eagles, and that's a page 29 read on the Vanguard for this morning. And the picture story on the front page of the Vanguard, you can see fuel queues from across the nation. And that's what we have on the front page of the Vanguard. That's all the headlines we can take this morning from the front page of the Vanguard.
Well, our next up this morning will be the front page of the Nation newspaper. The kicker there says, money laundering probe, EFCC swoops on 1,146 bank accounts. Of course, the writer there says, Kodo case freezing of accounts for unauthorized forex dealings, terror financing. That story is on page 3. Still on the front page of the Nation, NERC okays 81,975 naira, 143,836 naira for meters. Of course, the story is on page 4. Tribunal stops multi-choice rates hike. Page 3 has the story. Still on the front page of the Nation, pro-EFCC, pro-Yahaya Bello protesters at agency headquarters. That's an interesting twist of event there. The story is on page 4. How I received $600,000 for Emefiele, ex-CBN director tells court. Page 4 has the story. Edo workers to earn 70,000 minimum wage from May. Aidatiwa gets APC certificate of return. Page 3 and page 3 has the two stories. And finally, before we leave the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning, we see we need $100 billion in 10 years to fix electricity, says Minister. Interesting twist. The story is on page 2. Petrol scarcity leave Nigerians stranded. Page 2 has a story. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
On the front page of the Daily Trust, the screen header says, why petrol scarcity persists according to marketers. It says work resumption disrupted in Lagos and Ogun. Transporters hike fares. And that story is a page 4 read on the Daily Trust for this morning. Uni Abuja female student died in accident. That's according to family. Forex deal, CBN stops for fintechs from onboarding new customers. And that story is also on the inside pages of the Daily Trust for this morning. NFF appoints Finidi George as Super Eagles head coach, and congratulations to him. That story is also on the inside pages of the Daily Trust for this morning. Below the picture story, federal government to Nigerians accept tariff hike or total blackout, Senate kicks. Federal government to Nigerians accepts tariff hike or total blackout, and Senate kick. That's also on the inside pages of the Daily Trust. Bandits sacked me from 10,000 hectares of farm. That's according to Bafarawa. Bandits sacked me from my 10,000 acres of land, says Bafarawa. And that's also on the inside pages of the Daily Trust this morning. More headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust. 4 killed as gunmen attack mourners in Enugu community. That's a page 24 read on the Daily Trust this morning. And page 5 has a story that says ASP syndicate arrested over adoption of 5 minors. ASP syndicate arrested over abduction of 5 minors. And the picture story that we see on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning is of fuel queues or motorists on queue as fuel scarcity bites harder in Otako, Abuja yesterday. That's all we have on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning.
Still on Daily Spotlight this morning, we head to the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, the kicker there says FX crisis, FCC to freeze 1,146 individual company accounts. Page 6 has the story, and the writer says account holders accused of illegal forex dealings, terrorism financing, money laundering. Still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, you see Labour set to picket airlines over refusal to unionize workers. Page 28 has a story. Due to pay 70,000 minimum wage. Page 6 has a story. Nigeria must spend $10 billion yearly till 2034 to revive power sector, says minister. Senators oppose new tariff regime. Page 2 has the story. Black marketers have fuel day as petrol sells for 1,000 naira per litre. Filling stations sell fuel between 650 and 900. Queues transportation situation worsen. Residents go on. Page 5 has a story. Of course, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. UTME result. 8,401 candidates score above 300. Page 2 has a story. JAMB withholds result of 64,624 candidates. That's the writer underneath that story. Prioritize workers, Nigeria's welfare. Labour tells federal government, says poverty killing workers. Page 2 has a story. Nigeria's economy has escaped sabotage phase. Tinubu, page 3 has a story. IMF projects growth in sub-Saharan Africa economy to hit 3.8%. Page 14. And before we take a leave of the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, my suspension plot tied to 2027 Ganduje, page 2 has a story. That's politics playing out for the APC. Over 30 Easter advert messages failed compliance tests. Archon. Now, this is where I have issues, but I'll let it slide. Those are the major stories you find on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
You paid your debt but not your taxes. I remember that.
Sandra, I don't want to go there, so please don't just take me there. Don't take me there. Because if we want to go to that conversation, it's going to take us a whole day. Literally, it's going to take us a whole day. So Akon is literally telling Nigerians we did not vet the 30 plus arts that surface on the internet. And what are they doing?
Obviously. Well, now they have done their vetting and they have said over how many of them have failed, and I don't know what's going to be the result of that. Now that after the Easter is gone, like a month ago, you're saying they failed. So what do we do with that information? Well, I'm hoping that there should be some kind of sanction, and if there is none,
it's too late.
Well, moving down to the Punch, petrol hits 800 naira as 240 million litre vessels arrive. Francis, I told you. And if the Punch did not report it this morning, maybe you would not have heard. Maybe you would have heard it maybe on your way somewhere. You just hear 800 naira, like.
But I already said it. I already said yesterday that the NNPCL was lying, because you can't tell us you have enough after telling us you have logistic problems. So where is the new vessel with millions of liters of crude oil coming from?
It has arrived, and now the price has increased. And yesterday we remember our guest on the program saying that this is just the federal government stylishly trying to introduce new price for petrol. I just want to believe that this is not it, because it's not like the fuel is not available. We have 240 million litre vessels arriving, but then we have a price of 800 naira per litre. So let's see how this works out in a few days, and hoping that 800 naira does not stick in the market, because a lot is going on already, and I don't know how much more things Nigerians can handle, or how much more hikes Nigerians can handle at this time. 5 tanker vessels offloading PMS at Lagos Port. Independent marketers sell for over 800 naira per litre. Black marketers charge 1,200 naira per litre. Motorists groan, commuters lament rising transport fare. Well, away from that, we have more headlines on the front page of the Punch this morning. EFCC probes 1,146 frozen accounts for money laundering. That's a page 2 read. The federal government begins fresh bids round for oil blocks. Page 30 of the Punch has that story. Customers panic as CBN bans OPay, PalmPay, and others from having new accounts. Customers panic as CBN bans OPay, PalmPay, others new accounts. They have been banned from onboarding new customers. And that story, you can find full details on page 29 of the Punch. Like, what that means is that new people cannot create OPay accounts or PalmPay accounts. And I think it also includes Kuda and Money Points. Well, details of that story you can find on page 29 of the Punch for this morning. Edo workers hail Obaseki over 70,000 naira new minimum wage. Below the picture story on the front page of the Punch, Tinubu will end economic sabotage, Shetima tells African leaders. And that's a page 11 read on the Punch. We hope he ends it sooner, because the poor are not breathing anymore. That story is on page 11 of the Punch this morning. $2.4 billion forex claims fictitious, says the CBN. And that's a page 37 read. Nurse accuses Lagos hospital of negligence over wife and son's death. And that's a page 20 read. And finally, on the front page of the Punch, 1.4 million UTME candidates scored below 200, and that's according to JAM. That story is also on the inside pages of the Punch.
Well, the next stop will be the very last paper for this morning. That will be the Guardian newspaper. The kicker there says debt market monopoly hurt Nigerians as fuel subsidy backfires. Page 6 has a story. Nigeria begs US to repatriate more stolen funds. Page 3 has a story. African heads of state canvass $120 billion for continent's development. Page 5 has a story. That controversial Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project, of course, that story is an editorial and is on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. Obaseki announces 70,000 minimum wage for workers. Page 28 has a story. FCC gets not to freeze 1,146 bank account over FX crisis. Page 3 has a story. No vacancy. Nasir Rock Ganduje tells Kwankwaso orders. Page 5. You are neck deep in a crisis and you are talking politics about 2027, Sandra. Isn't it interesting? Well, you can read that up for yourself on page 5. Royal complicity, how monarchs, crooked officials fuel illegal mining, insecurity in the southwest. Our story is a news analysis and is on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. And those are the major stories you find inside the Guardian this morning, literally taking us to the end of the conversation on our daily spotlight. Now, a lot of things here, Sandra. If I'm given the opportunity, I would say the one that touches my heart the most is the issue that is mentioned on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, the issue of monopoly and how that is hurting Nigeria. If we had our refineries functioning, if we had crude oil being refined in Nigeria, if we had the Nigerian government, successive administration, prioritize the right investment into the different subsectors of the oil sector, we will not be where we are today, Sandra. And we're talking about mining of, mineral resources, Sandra. In the midst of this conversation, my biggest fear and concern is how many Nigerian miners do we have? How many Nigerian firms are mining our natural resources? How many of the foreigners are in charge? Just yesterday we talked about the fact that in the maritime sector, when the in a time and space where the Nigerian government is saying, oh, we want to prioritize the blue economy and all of that investment and all the investment that has gotten into the sector, experts have said we are losing billions of dollars on a daily basis. Opportunities for job creation being lost to the foreign shippers. Why can't we in Nigeria as a government invest in the right things? How will we be able to change the narrative when we are not even showing commitment to addressing the root cause of the problem that got us to where we are today in the first place?
Well, aside that issue of oil marketers and monopoly in the oil sector, another headline that caught my attention on the front page of The Guardian this morning says 8 million households to pay more for prepaid meters as NEC deregulates sector. And I'm asking how. You're not going to force them to pay because 8 million households. The question is, do 8 million households have the money to pay for the prepaid meters? Because we are talking about 8 million households. When are they supposed to pay that, or when do you think they can afford to pay that? Because this I think 20 million Nigerians are to have prepaid meters come 2025, and out of the 20 million, how many do you think can just at once afford hundreds of thousands of naira to pay for prepaid meter? You say 80 million Nigerians cannot afford that. Sometimes when I look at these situations and I realize that there's no average Nigerian. It's either you're poor or you're rich. There's no we are in between or we are managing. You're either poor or rich. So if we're taking a look at the fact that over half of the Nigerian population are now below the poverty line, how can they afford to pay hundreds of thousands for prepaid meters? So that news just comes casually. 8 million Nigerians or households to pay for prepaid meters as NEC deregulates sector. It doesn't make sense, because if you're also taking a look at all of the things that Nigerians are going to be spending money for towards maybe whenever it is that the meters are available, how do you now expect them to come up with that kind of money to pay? That means we still have a long way to go when we're talking about this electricity sector. Taking into consideration that we also read in the news that $10 billion to be spent yearly if we want to get our electricity sector right, and that yearly is going to be for 10 years. So we need to spend $10 billion in 10 years to get Nigeria electricity sector right. At what point do we start investing that kind of money in the electricity sector, and how long is 10 years before we get it right?
I think government agencies and people in position of leadership are blind sometimes. Some of them are bereft of ideas. Some of them wake up and take decisions completely unaware of the statistics that we have as a country. Because if you look at the Bureau of Statistics, for instance, pegging approximately the number of Nigerians at 200 million plus, and then you're looking at, of that 200 million plus, 71 million are categorized as the poorest. And then still within that poverty benchmark, you're looking at 133 million people classified as being classed as multi-dimensional poor, according to the NPC. Now, if you put 133 million, you put, let's say the 71 million are part of the 133 million. In a country that will have an average of 200 million and a slight, addition on top of that. You're going to ask, of this, do we have up to 80 something or 80 million Nigerians who are going to be able to afford that? The answer is absolutely no. So these are comments that are coming from a point of ignorance, the comments that are coming from a point of arrogance, a point of, the lack of grasp with the real picture of things as far as Nigeria is concerned. But will you blame them? When Nigerians will tell you politicians are literally given opportunity to man government offices when they do not have the requirement, they do not have the qualifications, they do not have the experience, they do not have, literally no reason to be in that position other than the fact that they supported a politician, and then that office is being used as a settlement and retirement plan for them to go sit and loot from the public. This is why we are where we are today. And until we solve this mindset of, I know the politicians will tell you, you have to serve somebody so that you get into certain offices and all of that. We'll have to go back to the conversation. The likes of Gowon, the people who made it to the position of leadership in the past, were they serving somebody? Now, should we also sacrifice quality service delivery? Should we sacrifice good economic policies? Should we sacrifice lifting Nigerians out of poverty for political interests and purposes? That is a question that politicians in this country need to answer. And we as Nigerians will also have to answer those questions, because if we continue to collect money during elections and vote for people who have no business being in position of leadership, we are the problems to ourselves.
Well, I think an international body recently did an audit of Nigeria's election, and remember what they said. They said the governance in Nigeria is a will of the people, because people voted who they wanted. Not the Nigerians got the government that they wanted. So it's not that they wanted this because this is the best government, but then people did what they had to do just to survive temporary solutions that were offered to them, and people decided to take those temporary solutions to, solve their problems. But now we see how that is turning out, and now everybody is complaining about the economic situation of the country. And we have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Okay, well, that's connection there. Well, literally, Sandra, as we wrapped up this conversation.
Because I'm saying this because the President Bola Tinubu has been saying he's making moves, economic moves, for the betterment of Nigerians.
No,
that there are tough decisions that we are going to, benefit from in times to come. And I'm wondering how long, because from the moment that he was sworn in and he said subsidy gone, it's more like a restructure of the whole system. Everything
it's been from price hike to price hike, from price hike to price hike.
So he said, yes, it's going to be tough economic decisions. Yes, they have been tough. But how long or how much more toughness are we expecting? Because it's almost a year and it hasn't gotten better. At this point, as we speak, sitting here, I think it has gotten worse than it used to be when he even said subsidy gone. Because now the price, if petrol is selling at almost 800 naira and nobody is saying anything about that, and if nothing is said, you will see months to come, petrol will be 800 naira per litre, and that's going to be our new reality. We're talking about hiking in services, hiking subscriptions, hiking this and that, because everybody's complaining about the economic situation. At what point does it get better? That's my question.
Well, that's a question that only President Ahmed Bola Tinubu and his entourage are going to be able to answer, and his appointees. And we do hope, in the interest of Nigerians, before we get to the wall and decide to bounce back as Nigerians, which will be a very horrible thing to happen, and the government of the day are able to find lasting solutions, we need to address the root cause of the problems we are facing, and that is make sure that people don't come into Nigeria to exploit Nigerians. What are the practices in our crimes? What are the practices in other countries? What are these businesses doing? How are they operating in other countries? We should be able to have that conversation and make a policy direction and enforce those policies to ensure Nigerians are not exploited. The Nigerian Consumer Protection Council needs to rise up to its mandate and responsibility to ensure Nigerians are not exploited, whether it's in terms of services or in terms of produce that are brought into the country or sold to Nigerians. We need to ensure that our rights as Nigerians are properly protected by the government and government agencies. And the leadership of this country needs to also rise up and do the needful that must be done in terms of making sure that people don't come into Nigeria and insult the generality of the intelligence of Nigerians. The issue of the National Assembly calling people for investigation and them shunning just because they feel like they can bribe one or two persons and then things will be overlooked needs to stop. And that goes back to the government of the day. And we do hope the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, who has pledged consistently that they are going to work with President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, the leader of the House, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, the presidency and its appointees who have sworn they want to take Nigeria out of poverty. We need to take those strong, tough decisions that the president is saying, and Nigerians above all want to see the impact of those tough decisions, and we want it to focus on the people, not just a political elite few.
Well, Francis, you said a lot, and I don't think there's anything left for me to say in all of this that you've said so far. I'm just hoping that come tomorrow we see a different narrative in the news. 240 liters of diesel has arrived in Nigeria. How does that affect the price of petrol? Because this particular one, I'm saying it because 800 naira, it's affecting price of transportation. It's going to affect the price of goods and services, because if you're using, we don't have electricity in Nigeria, which means if you have a business, you're running a generator, which it's either you're running on diesel or petrol, so which means price of services might skyrocket. So where does this leave an average Nigerian? So I'm hoping that come tomorrow it's a different narrative on the news, and we hope to hear something good, something more positive, and because all of this hike and new tariff and new prices, this is not the way to go. And I just feel very sad. The senators have been opposing the new tariff hike, and yet that opposition has not gotten anywhere, because it's not like people have not started paying. People are already paying for it. So, and for me, I keep saying that I feel like since the new electricity tariff for band A, others in other bands have been suffering it. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just because the power supply has gotten worse. Maybe it's just from my side. I don't know how it is in your area, Francis. Because at some point I just made a joke. I feel like all of the electricity has been transferred to those in band A, just so that they can meet up with the 20 hours, and every other person, you're left with whatever is left behind after they've gotten adequate 20 hours of power supply. But then, since we are not in band A, what do? We managed to, we have $10 billion US yearly to be able to stabilize our power sector in Nigeria. So
it's the hopelessness you've expressed this morning, but we do hope we find hope in the renewed hope agenda of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and it actually brings the relief that Nigerians truly need. But this is the much we can take on Rise and Shine. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation this morning. To you who call in, we truly appreciate the call and the comments and contributions. My name is Francis Oyemaidet, and I've been doing this with...
My name is Sandra Agu. Thank you so much for watching Rise and Shine this morning. Till we come your way tomorrow, stay safe and bye for now.